Welcome to the GuestX podcast, where my co-host Brian Hamawi and I uncover the latest technologies and human-driven initiatives that are raising customer expectations and forever changing how we define customer experience across a host of industries. If you are passionate about creating incredible content and unique experiences, join us as we talk to leading product and experience experts across the globe and learn about how today's most successful brands are setting themselves apart from the competition.
Hey, Marc, welcome to the show. We're really excited to have you. For those listeners that aren't, they don't know who you are, they don't know who Minuin is. Why don't you give us a little bit of background on what you guys do, how you came into this space, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm glad to be here. Minoan is a platform. Basically, hosts can think of Minoan as a platform to manage everything that has to do with the stuff that goes into your rental that makes it so that guests aren't sitting in an empty box. So the initial furnishing, like ordering all the furniture, the artwork, the appliances, all the stuff, the kitchen, for a 2-bedroom home, if you're furnishing from scratch, you're ordering about 200 items. So we help manage all that in one place. And then the ongoing ordering with soaps and shampoos, linens, towels, when something breaks, stuff like that. That's sort of what we really focus on. And then the bonus is that we will help you make your property shoppable to guests. So that if guests really love the mattress or the furniture or the television or the coffee, any of these items, we make it really easy for guests to buy that. We do all the work in managing the customer service, and, our owners can just sit back and collect commission checks.
That's absolutely fascinating. I think, I start to think through product a little bit, and the management of product seems to be mind-blowing to me. The amount of units that you guys probably carry. Yeah. So why don't you tell us how you got into the space? How did you actually think about building this particular piece of technology, and then coming into the leisure, hospitality industry and being able to offer this up to property managers?
Yeah, of course. So I was an early employee at a company called Jet.com, which was an e-commerce marketplace, launched in 2014, sold to Walmart for $3.3 billion in 2016. I then went over to Walmart to help manage their sporting goods business, which was it's quite large. It was like a multi-$100 million P&L that I was managing. And I learned a lot. I learned a lot about e-commerce on the Jet side and the Walmart side, how to optimize sort of around pricing and merchandising. And then at Walmart, I learned a lot about the store side of the business. So how to set the modular, doing walkthroughs. I did sourcing trips to China where we were thinking about assortment. And my biggest takeaway was that the best product experiences, they don't actually happen on screens the way they do in e-commerce. And they don't happen on shelves or in aisles the way they do in stores. They happen in real moments of use. And for me, that was so obvious because the buyers, the ones who are curating the experiences on screens and shelves, when they're figuring out what to bring into inventory, they get samples. They say, okay, send me the product. Let me see how good it is. They want to use it and experience it and try it and really put it through the ringer. So fitness was one of our categories. You better believe we're getting samples and we're using that thing. We're testing functionality, durability, programming. Does it store? How much space to take up? What's the warranty? All this stuff. And then we're like, okay, we love this. This product's great. Our customers are going to love it. Bring it in, buy it. But then by the time the customers are experiencing that product, the very rich interaction that the buyer has is now distilled down to a little, 5-inch screen that someone's scrolling through. Or we're putting these products, we're deconstructing them and putting them in cardboard boxes and cramming them on a shelf. And the reality is, sticking with my example, you can't tell if you're going to enjoy running on a treadmill or if it's the right treadmill for you by looking at it at a box on a shelf or looking at pictures of it on a screen. And reviews help, but there's all this data that's showing that half of the reviews on Amazon and in e-commerce are totally BS and fake. And as someone
Mhm.
who was on the inside at Walmart, I would notice like, this is really weird. Every time this product gets a 1-star review, the next day it gets 5 5-star reviews. It's like this weird trend, like boop. And it's like, oh, the company has someone monitoring their products. And when they get a bad review, they just order 4 and give it 5 stars because the reviews are so important in driving conversion. So long way to say, I felt and still feel that retail is it's not that it's broken. It clearly works. I mean, we spend a ton of money on screens and shelves, but it's very suboptimal. And that was something that I couldn't shake. And I was like, there's got to be a better way to do this. And I was thinking, could you do a store so people can use it, but then you need more space and like, stores like they're all optimizing around dollar per square foot. Why? Because there's a high fixed cost. Like we have the lease we got to pay, we have build out costs we got to cover, we have salespeople we got to pay. So I'm going to try and get as much dollars through every square foot as possible. That's why everything's crammed together. So to have a retail experience where it's more user based and you can try something, it doesn't really work in the store model. And I couldn't really shake it. And then basically my wife and I were staying at a short-term rental in upstate New York and just were having, it was euphoric. We were like, this place is beautifully designed. We woke up off the mattress. We're like, man, what? It's 8:30. We never sleep in this. Like, what mattress is this? Like, rip the sheets off the mattress to figure out what the mattress was. We were checking the sheets for tags. We're like, what are these sheets? And there was a lot of stuff, man. We loved like the coasters, the kitchen I've talked about on other podcasts. It's like a really well-designed kitchen. And we emailed the host saying we wanted to buy this stuff. Yeah. And that led us down this trail of like, wow. The host just sent me these links. They're not even making money on this. And all these brands are spending billions of dollars on Facebook and Google to try and create meaningful moments, on an Instagram video or on a PLA. And yet real moments that are highly valuable are happening in spaces like these every day. And they're not priced in. The hosts aren't getting credit for the value they're creating. And that, I know this is sort of a long-winded explanation, but that's how we got from sort of that initial itch into the short-term rental market, basically just looking at owners and hosts and being like, these people are four-walled influencers and brands are not treating them as such. And in order to really bring that to light, you need to build a lot of infrastructure to connect the suppliers to these hosts, to make it really easy to purchase them, to bring these products to life. And so that's what we've built at Minoan.
Do you think people really realize how valuable they are, or how valuable the product is inside of their homes? Quality products, good name brands, and how much value it actually brings to the rentals and the experience. Because I feel like property managers, they go in, we see it here in Central Florida a lot. We hire really high-end decorators. They're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then the last thing that we're doing is talking about the product that we've actually invested in inside of the homes. When in fact, if you've got a good mattress, you should be talking about the mattress. If you've got good quality linen, if you've got, all of that kind of stuff, even down to your toaster and your Nespresso machine inside of the house, we just don't know the value that it brings to the short term, to the end user, which is the guest. Can you talk to us a little bit about that? And then do you guys, what are you guys seeing on the back end when people are placing that kind of product in their homes and calling it up?
Yeah. I think some people know the value, but a lot of people do not. And I think we see it in some people view furnishing purely as a cost center. It's like, I need to buy this stuff. I need stuff in the space so that it's not an empty box. And some people really do view it with a design mentality. And, we sort of encourage owners and hosts to think about furnishing in a bit of a matrix. You have like utility, so products that are used often, and then aesthetic, which is products that look nice. And there's a way that you should really think about furnishing your rental. Like, you take a product like a bed, and you say, all right, the bed has the mattress has extremely high utility. It's the most used product actually. And then the bed itself, like the frame, it has pretty high aesthetic value, and that the type of bed frame you choose chooses can really change like what the entire room looks like. So that's like in this top right of high utility, high aesthetic. That's a place that's worth investing. Things that are low utility, low aesthetic, it's a commodity. Like don't buy the Duracell batteries, like just get the cheapest ones out there. And so I think some people see it, some people don't. And the ones that do, candidly, like they're on their own competitive field. Like right now we're seeing on the whole, you're seeing occupancy dropping and ADR dropping on at the mass if you look at the aggregate. But if you zoom in, like we have hosts who are like, I'm still booked for the next 8 months. I haven't even noticed. Why? Because when you look at these properties, like they are immaculately designed and they've created this brand where it's like people just want to be there. And I think what we want to help, so when the guest arrives at these spaces, they subconsciously feel like, man, this is nice. This is really nice. This feels like a really nice home. What we want to do with Minoan through these like really elegant sort of shoppable narratives is bring it from the subconscious to the conscious, where it's like, guess what? We have the latest Nespresso coffee maker here, 2021, makes all this stuff. Go check it out. Go try it. We have the Bear Hybrid, which is the same mattress that the IMG Academy uses because it's so restorative and it's built for athletes. Like, sleep on it. Let us know what you think. Bringing these from the subconscious to the conscious, where you feel like you're walking around in this like perfectly curated space, is part of the value that we're bringing to these properties. So
one of the things might be helpful, and obviously some people are listening in, Mark, and others are kind of going to watch this, but maybe pull up, because I do think your website's got some great examples of how you help these operators, these homeowners, begin to merchandise the space and do that. I think it would be helpful. One of the questions too, and maybe as you walk through, I think to help better the business model of Minoan, is it that is it that you are the underlying business model is to help people furnish and keep furnished and update and things, through the amenities, the ongoing these homes, or and then I guess the upselling of the items is kind of the gravy on top, if you will. Is that true? And then when you're selling this to operators, is the benefit first and foremost the ability to kind of get wholesale pricing on the items and stuff? And is it that same direction where then if somebody buys this coffee maker, I may make a little bit of a spiff, but that's not why you do it. Talk to us about that too as you kind of go through it.
Yeah. So the underlying like idea and business model is that the relationship between suppliers and owners or hosts needs to change. Right now, suppliers view hosts or owners as customers to make money off of. Doesn't matter if you're getting a trade discount or whatever, like you're still dealing with a salesperson who is looking at the margin that they're making on that order. We believe that these suppliers should view properties and property managers in these groups as marketing partners to help these brands reach even more customers. Like if you have 3 properties and you're getting 1,000 people a year inside these properties, those are 1,000 incredibly high value engagements. If a click is worth $7 and a click lasts 2 seconds, what's it worth for someone to come in and sleep on your mattress 3 or 4 nights in a row for 8 hours a night? And so the underlying belief is just that the relationship between these suppliers and these hosts needs to change. And the ideal way of doing that is, if you're a marketing partner, then you should be getting really steep discounts to bring these things in, because you're basically a distribution partner now for the supplier. And anytime you drive something that's of value to that brand, you should get paid for it. And right now, it's if you can drive a sale, you get paid for it, and you get a good commission. It's a lot higher than affiliate. But in the future, what we want to explore is, even if someone doesn't buy, it's still valuable for the brand. It's an impression, right? And they pay for impressions. They pay a lot of money for impressions, whether or not they convert. And so that's sort of the underlying why, is that the relationship needs to change. What gets complicated is that there's multiple components of that. There's like, well, you need to get the products from A to B, and then you need to, make the products at B. You need to digitize this and illuminate it so that it's more of a marketing, a valid marketing opportunity for the suppliers. And so, unfortunately, we're as a founder, and something we need to do as a company is like tying all the products together to host like tightly in a buttoned up way. We have a lot of work to do there, because it's like, we're kind of like, you buy it and then you can sell it and you can make money. But the why is just that this is how you should view your relationship with your suppliers, is that it's a little more symbiotic. You're delivering a service to them, they're delivering products to you. And the real reason that a lot of property managers in particular use us right now is because we just make ordering so easy. Like, they save money ordering through the platform, and they save time because we allow them to order from like 30 different suppliers all in one place, one cart, one checkout. You log back in, you can see tracking information for everything. You don't have to go through 20 emails to see when your sofa is going to get delivered, and then another email to see when the soap and shampoo, and then another email. You don't have to email your linens rep and say, hey, we need to order another. It's all in one place and easy, particularly if you're trying to manage that across 100, 500, 1,000 properties. The most eye-opening thing for me was, as we started working with these larger, what I would call like enterprise groups, they have all these systems. They have pricing systems, they have systems for guest communications, they have systems for acquiring properties, they have systems for cleaning properties and turning. No one has a system for furnishing. The best system we saw was a Google sheet that was, very detailed, but very time consuming to update it constantly. Yeah. So that's, I think, the biggest value prop, why property owners are using us now, is the savings and the time savings. But we believe that as we improve this sort of like shoppable side of the business, that can have an outsized, if you can monetize not just the sales, but the marketing value, that actually starts to become meaningful cash as well.
Yeah, that's interesting. Go ahead,
this type of concept takes me back, Matt, a little bit to the Berkshires. Some of the comments that Marc's made, and part of that goes to, Home Depot and Verbo came together. They took over a house and they brought in three groups of designers, and they basically brought in product partners, and they fitted out this entire house. And it's a very similar idea to what you're saying. If you look at some of these outfits now, you go to Lowe's or you go to Home Depot, you even go to Target. What they're starting to do is change the retail experience, where you're not just buying off the shelf, but they're designing houses within the warehouse so that you can experience the product a little bit better. So I think a lot of what you're saying hits home pretty close. We're just not there yet. I think part of the second part of this is that the quality of product that you guys are purchasing for property managers is a vetted quality. It's not something that they're just going in, they're trying to buy a glass and they're hoping that, they're going to get 6 glasses and then it goes out of stock and then they've got to source something else, because that is one of the biggest pains for a property manager is consistency throughout the homes, being able to shop in one place that's reliable, and then make it a streamlined process throughout their houses. Talk to us a little bit about the brands that you guys are bringing on and how you guys are vetting the product.
Yeah, so we have about 200 brands now that we work with. We've gotten many, 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 many more than that have applied to be on the platform. Brands we work with now are Article, West Elm, Pottery Barn, Crate and Barrel, Wayfair, Castlery, Industry West, EQ3, Our House. I mean, particularly on the furniture side, it's like we run the full gamut of what you'd want. And then we work with OXO. We work with Caraway, we work with Sardell, we work with Blue Land. I mean, all of these what we're looking for is a brand that delivers high quality product. Again, that means it doesn't just look good on a screen. It's good when it shows up at your door. That's what we really care about. It's nice if it looks good on a screen, but the product quality is what we care most about, and that they're willing to offer reasonable value to property managers who bring their products in. And so it's sort of this value spectrum that we look at, and wanting to offer breadth, because some hosts love getting really good discounts on West Elm, and that works for them. Some hosts are like, even at a really strong discount, this is more expensive than I'm willing to pay. And so that's where working with a Wayfair or a Walker Edison, some of these other brands that play in like, more opening price point product works for them. But they still make good product. And so, yeah, the vetting is like, when we onboard anyone, we ask for samples, because we're like, all right, let's use this and see if it's up to a high standard. And if the team is like, if we all look around, we're like, this is pretty good, and the costing they're willing to offer is pretty good, and we think that it presents a lot of value to hosts, then we'll onboard it. Sometimes even if we're like, oh, we'll see if hosts want this, like we don't like, but that's how we think about onboarding on the brand side. And the value prop to them is pretty straightforward. Like it's hard to acquire customers, and what we're presenting is like, hey, we have a network of a lot of properties in our network. The properties in our network are seeing tens of millions of guests at this point. I haven't done the math. Tens of millions, maybe hundreds, but tens of millions of guests a year. What is that worth? Again, going back to what I said earlier. By the way, if you're paying $7 for a click, like, what is it worth to have someone use your coffee maker every morning for 3 days? And that's sort of,
I think that's where, I do. I mean, I think there's huge potential there. I think, to your point earlier, Marc, that's where the data, I think, has got to catch up. I mean, part of the struggle, I think, probably is the inability right now to easily track those impressions across homes. But I love where you're going, because in theory, a home in Hawaii, right, that's going to have 285, 300 occupied nights a year is worth more than to somebody who's got a high-end coffee maker in that home than maybe a home in Cape Cod that's going to have 58 or 60 short-term nights a year, right? And but it was probably also baked into that real estate cost a little bit. So if you can start to monetize those things across those lines, I think there's huge value. But I think in the interim, one of the things I'd like to, for you to chat about is like, what are people buying right now? This isn't, before we got on this, where I was thinking, this isn't really a new concept. I mean, Marriott, I can buy the mattress. It's always been kind of a big thing with Marriott, right? And so hotel groups have started to monetize some things and making some of these experiences shoppable. But what are you guys seeing so far? I mean, where is the value? Where are people placing the value as far as what are they maybe buying that they're experiencing in the homes?
Yeah, it's certainly not. Yeah, we have not invented this concept, but I do think that the execution of it in a lot of hotels is pretty subpar. Like,
definitely,
I just stayed at a hotel, like a very nice hotel, for my honeymoon, and like they had these robes, and they had this like paper wrapper around the robes, and it's like this robe, call the front desk for pricing or something like that. And it's like, okay, one, it's a little in my face. So like the way we approach shoppability, for people who are listening, they're not going to see this, but I'll describe it. Like, we send our property partners these very elegant powder coated note card stands, and it just kind of tense up. And the language that's on this says, found something you like. So it doesn't say add to cart. It doesn't say buy. It doesn't say retail. It says found something you like. That's very soft. It's like, it doesn't trigger what's called persuasion knowledge model, which is like when we feel like we're being sold to, our whole brain chemistry changes. We get defensive. So in this hotel, not only is it like, boom, in my face, like, buy this, It's you're not even going to tell me how much it costs. You're going to make me call you to figure out how much it costs. And then how do I order it? Am I doing it over the phone? That's not like that. It's a lot of friction. And so I think that we didn't invent it, but I'm confident that we can significantly improve upon what's out there in the market. And in terms of what sells, like, we sell a lot of bedding. And that's like, I think the most tactically rich part of the hospitality experience is the bed, the experience in the bed. And so that was what we had hypothesized, is that we'd sell a lot of bedding. Maybe I'll just scroll through some of the orders we've gotten like recently. Yeah. So this one is queen sheet set from Frette. That was a big, those are not cheap. So that host is getting a nice commission on this.
By the way, we had somebody, just to stop you there, Brian, I can't remember who it was. We had somebody on who said, oh, no, you know who it was? We were in the Berkshires. It was Tim Rizzolio from Verbo. Yeah, I know I say it wrong. But anyways, but Tim said to start with things that people touch.
Yeah.
Right. The bedding, it just doesn't shock me. The bedding jumps right off. Sorry, Mark, keep going.
No, it's great. More bedding. This one's from Comfy. People love Comfy. All right. Then this is soap and shampoo.
Sorry, I'm not seeing your screen.
Oh, I'm just scrolling through an internal. I don't know if you guys would want to see this. It's just like an internal. It's an internal dashboard. Pillows from Northern Feather. More sheets from Comfy. Soap and shampoo from Grown Alchemist. That's nice. A turntable. More sheets. This is decor. So what is this? Designed Studio McGee cast gold. So this looks like stuff that would go on a shelf or something. More pillows, shampoo, and body wash from Public Goods. An always pan from Our Place. Yeah, what else we got in here? A Fellow tea kettle. A leather catch-all.
I was just looking at those.
Yeah, which those are nice. We sell a good amount of these. This one's funny. A tissue cover. I actually know this one. So this is a tissue cover that goes over like a Kleenex box, and the tissue comes out through the chimney, so it looks like a puff of smoke. Yep. Yeah, so someone bought one of those. So this is just all stuff. I mean, I'll stop, otherwise this will go on forever, but all sorts of stuff.
We've had people do a whole podcast. We'll just read through the things, but
you might lose people.
But it's fascinating. I mean, obviously the sheets are really popular. I don't think that probably surprises anybody. And I will say, as you said that, I'm like, one of my biggest fears whenever my wife buys new sheets is, well, what if we don't like, like it seems like, I don't know, it just seems like I got to be really invested in that purchase. And so then, if I've already slept in them, that's an easy sell.
Yeah. I mean, Simon Lehman's probably going to talk about knives. So
right. He would. He probably would.
People just buy $20, $40 cheap knives where you guys are proposing to, and it's something that's so essential.
I mean, everyone needs to just figure out what their brand is and what price point they're going to play in. If you want to play at like the lower end of the market in terms of ADR, you should be buying commoditized product, because I think that's a dangerous place to be. I think like you need to have massive scale across any industry. If you want to compete on price, you need to have massive scale. And I think that the economies of scale in managing properties are very different than the economies of scale you get in something else like manufacturing, where, competing on price, like size is king. I think that the challenges of managing, anyways, we would.
I think it's a good point. That's a really good point, though. Know your brand, know your consumer. What is the demographics you're going after, and what's gonna make them feel good about that stay.
Right. I didn't talk about this, but I talked about the kitchen. One of the things when we stayed at this Airbnb in upstate, or the short-term rental, I should say, in upstate New York, was the knife set. We used their knife set, and we were like, we need new knives. Like, this is what cutting a tomato is supposed to feel like. I feel like I'm like, crushing these things when I try and cut it at home. And we bought new knives. And it was just like, sometimes you don't know what you need until you use one that's way better. Like sometimes you don't know you need a new vacuum cleaner until you try a Dyson and you're like, this is different and great.
Yeah.
I didn't know I had an issue with my vacuum cleaner until I used this new one. And I think that's part of the power of this is what we call native retail. These real world moments is that they really can lead to inspiration. And we think that they are incredibly valuable to brands, whether they know it or not. A lot of brands get it and they come right on. Some brands are resistant and they're like, well, we think that people will buy our stuff anyways. And it's like, I think, we're like, okay, if you think you can just sell this stuff without the partnership of the property owner, then do it on your own. Like,
yeah, I think about the logistics behind it as well. I mean, if you, and I, I'm not super familiar with your interface, but if I've got 100 or 500 properties, I furnished my property with you and you guys know every single item that's in that house. Something breaks, I can go into a website, click buy now again,
yeah.
and I am not trying to do searching. And it just all of a sudden appears and it's done. I'm not sending
you don't have
shopping.
to pay. I've heard of, I've heard of people who have to go back to the designer.
Yeah.
And then they have to pay the designer for their time. Hey, where did you get this end table? Okay, let me go back and I'll reorder it for you. And like the designer's charging you for their time to go and place the order. And then they're also charging you generally a markup on whatever discount they're getting. And so, yeah, it's about making the reorder easy. And, Matt, going back to what you said about the data, there's so much interesting data that can come out of seeing stuff on the B2B side and seeing stuff on the B2C side. It's like we can then go to hosts and be like, it's one thing to be able to go to hosts and say, other hosts love this coffee pot or this mattress. That's validating. That's good. It's even more powerful to say guests freaking love this coffee pot. And that's sort of like we have invested pretty heavily in building a really strong events-based infrastructure for data, like things that you can't do if you're just building on like an off-the-shelf platform. My co-founder is like a top 1%. His whole core competency is data. And the things that we have planned over the next 18 months, I think are going to be fascinating to host. Even like, what if we could tell you that, the difference, the correlations to ADR, like, hey, this product is generally in properties at this ADR. This product is generally in you can give us your brand. This is what we want to charge. This is where we are, as we think. And we could just kind of like be like, here's all the stuff, that you should buy for this ADR. And here's the expected payback period. Okay. This mattress typically converts at, I don't know, like say 0.5%. So if you're getting, make the math easy, if you're getting 400 guests a year, you should expect to sell 2 a year. The commission on those 2, once you've sold 3 mattresses, this mattress, it covers what you invested in the mattress in the first place. It's now a net profitable asset. So the expected payback period is 18 months. Okay. Maybe for something else, the expected payback period is 6 months. And so the data is where we can make people more efficient with their furnishing and purchasing and more intelligent. And then that should yield benefits in ADR, in just giving people an advantage where it's like, well, I bought this mattress, but in a year and a half, I will have covered it. And then I can just continue to upgrade and reinvest in the property and always be at the top end of the market and always demand higher ADRs. And so there's a flywheel here that we want to help our partners capture. And we just have, we have some work. We have some work we're doing some of it now, but we have a lot of work to get to the ideal state, what we believe is how people should approach this.
Matt, I'd love to get your feedback on this because, as he's talking, what I'm thinking about is we have an issue, not with the rating system, but classifying actual units. You have hotels do it really well. We have a 5-star hotel, 4-star, 3-star, and it goes down. And the one thing that we haven't managed to do in the short-term rental world is be able to classify homes. Matt, I mean, does this help us in some way in the future? be able to start to classify homes based on the amenities that they carry. So the quality of the furniture, the quality of the mattresses. Would this be a first step in saying, well, if you carry these products, these, this type of mattress, this type of furniture, you are more than likely going to be a 5-star ranking property. And that's how we start to be able to compete with the hotel product.
Yeah, I do think I was going to bring up that I think that a little bit of the struggle too still is with the channels. The channels don't make it easy to really call out the things that you're doing um, to drive that ADR upwards, which is crazy because it's one thing when it was a listing site, but now that they're true platforms, they benefit greatly from increasing ADR. Yet, and again, it's not easy, but it's very hard to get your property to stand out outside of photos, right? Nobody really reads the descriptions anymore. There's a limited amount of icons you can use on, say, Vrbo or Airbnb or some of these. And I think when we can get, and I think there's things we can do as far as, a more immersive experience where you could, as I look around the house, little call outs could pop out. Did you realize we have this type of mattress? Here's a high end coffee maker. Like if my wife could look around the kitchen and see that it's got the really big mixer, right? And Tim from Vrbo loves to talk about, Tim Rizzoli loves to talk about the mixers, or the waffle maker or this, she would pay more. So
Well,
I think that,
what if they just took the classification that they've already built out and you were able to add a brand to it?
yeah, I think qualify, if how do I qualify? So it's interesting. There's a very large group over in the UK a ways, right? They've got about 100,000 vacation rentals, but only about 20,000 do they actually manage. The other 80,000, they are the marketer for those. It's kind of an evolved model. But what's interesting is within their holiday park system, they've got 7 different flags, if you will. And then they have requirements, and you don't have to meet all the requirements, but you have to meet a certain number of them to qualify for a certain level flag. I think if the OTAs or some of the distribution points started creating that, they could have these amenities, right, be part of some of the different ways or the calculation of how do I qualify. So I don't know if it's a star rating and Airbnb has started to do this with, they've got their, can't even think of what it's called now, but they're really high end homes. And Marriott
Mhm.
Homes and Villas has got certain requirements around the linens and things like that. I think we're moving in that direction, which is good for all the operators because I think a lot of what Minoan's doing here can be monetized through the ADR. Forget reselling. If no one ever bought anything, but you have to be able to tell people effectively why they ought to pay a little bit more per night. And I think that's the piece that's still a little hard. So then you get the commodity operators, if you will, which again, Marc brings up a good point. Being from Jet and Walmart, he knows better than anyone. There's a business model for that high volume, but there can usually only be 1 or 2 of those. And then everyone else needs to play in a different field. But there, you could start to really, you could say, no, because I invest in that coffee maker and that bed and those linens, I make 20 more bucks a night. That's easy to calculate. We just got to get better data and we got to get better ways to tell people about it. I mean, Marc, do you agree? I mean, that was a little bit of my
No,
take on it.
100%. The goal of the data would be to show you a payback period which would be reflective of the anticipated increase in ADR that it justifies and the expected conversion rate and commissions. And so
yeah,
and this
brilliant.
this data exists with big, like if you have a tennis court and you're in the Hamptons, you can charge an extra,
right? Or a golf
I don't know what
cart,
it is,
a 6-seater golf cart at the beach. They know what
yeah,
that's worth. They've already figured it out. Yep.
exactly. And so doing that with everything in the home, every single thing in the home, and the strength of correlate. Okay, does salt and pepper shakers have a correlation with ADR? Probably not. If we looked at the total, a million data points, it's probably not. Does the mattress? I would hypothesize yes. Does the living room furniture? I would also hypothesize yes. I don't know. But once you have that data, you can have this very instructive way of investing and quantifying the payback period, which you're right, Matt. It's the commissions is gravy. The ADR is really probably going to be the biggest driver of when this thing pays for itself.
Yeah. I've said for a long time that there are so many attributes of a vacation rental that can be better monetized. Right now, we focus on the location, the time of year, and I would say there's probably a handful of amenities, golf carts, hot tubs. There's probably 2 or 3 more, and then that's it. Like we are just at the surface of truly monetizing and maximizing our yield management. I think this is fascinating because I was just thinking while you were talking, Mark, if someone had a really high end, I like the work vacation, right? The workcation or whatever they're called. But if someone had a high end curved monitor
and a comfy
and
desk,
I sat there,
that's the hardest thing to find in these
a great one. That's a great example. That's right. Or even the desk, maybe, right? But those couple things, and I could experience that, I would absolutely go home like I'm getting that monitor. It made it so much easier to work, right? Or even maybe the camera that I used for my Zoom calls and those type of things. So that's really
it's every category.
Really cool.
Think about a wedding. Think about you. Okay, so you're staying at a wedding, your partner, whatever. People are going to weddings. If there's a property that gets a lot of wedding stays, that property having a Dyson hairdryer, one, might be like okay, that's nice. I'm going to be able to use this really nice hairdryer for the wedding. You know who else that's good for? Dyson. Where else do you want to be? Besides being in a home where people are going to be heavily photographed and want to look their best. So there's just so much overlap. That's like why we exist, is that there's all this value that's opportunity that's just not being captured on both sides. It's wasteful. And in order to capitalize on that, you just need a pretty robust platform that can do a few things and has a really strong data infrastructure. Where again, we're in like the early days of this, but hopefully you get a little insight into sort of where we believe 2-3 years.
Really cool. Congratulations
it is really cool.
on on the initial success. So if people want to learn more, obviously the website, tell them how to get in contact with you. And by the way, I think the team over there at Minoan put together a little bit of an offer for some of our listeners if they want to sign up and check it out.
Yep. So there should be an offer in the show notes for people who are listening to this episode. If you can follow us on Instagram at Minoan Experience. We post a lot of tips on thinking about design and furnishing and brands there. And if you want to email us, you can email me. I'm Marc, M-A-R-C, at MinoanExperience.com. I like to make myself available. And if you want to, apply to be part of our network of properties, you go to MinoanExperience.com and join us, and we'll have a link to that.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
That's it for this week's episode of GuestX. Be sure to sign up for our email list at guestxpodcast.com. That's guest, the letter X, podcast.com. And follow us on your favorite podcast apps so you never miss an episode. He is Mr. Guest Experience Brian Hamaui, and I am Matthew Loney signing off, reminding you to always create a customer experience worth talking about.